parish of Blairgowrie and Rattray, sitting snugly amongst the Perthshire hills on the banks of the River Ericht. It grew from a small market centre into a thriving industrial town in the mid-1800s with the arrival of the jute mills. Over 3,000 people worked in these mills, and this was an era that embraced change, progress and new ideas. This was an era that embraced the Industrial Revolution, and people were eager to learn of the new world beyond their horizon. Like today, folk were curious. They wanted to hear news, and for the first time for many, they wanted to read it in a newspaper. On Saturday, the 21st of April, 1855, the very first edition went on sale of a newspaper that was later to become universally known as the Blairgowrie Advertiser. The first edition appeared as a single sheet, measuring 13 inches by 9 inches, and contained 2 wide columns of reading matter on either side. It was entitled Ross's Compendium of the Week's News and cost 1/2 penny. It contained reports from the Crimean War and the sighting of Napoleon in Constantinople. The publication of the single news sheet might seem a small event to a generation accustomed to reading entire books on a computer, but this was a significant contribution to a population eager to learn of news beyond the Perthshire hills. This broadsheet brought the world into the lives of ordinary people, and it eventually grew into an 8-page edition with over 4,000 copies a week. In 1880, the paper moved to new premises. It was printed and published here at 7 Reform Street, Blairgowrie, and in this top-lit, timber-lined print shop there sits a 19th and 20th century time capsule, full of machines and memories, a world of wonderful words as well, such as coin and case and slug. Here you'll find machines rejoicing in such glorious names as Heidelberg, or Intertype, and Wharfdale. The Industrial Revolution heralded new ways of thinking, new inventions, and with it, huge advances in printing. This building, unique in the UK, contains the original fittings and typecases that were used over decades to produce the Blairgowrie Advertiser, known locally as the Blairie. The present owner, Hamilton Scott, started here as an apprentice compositor and intertype operator when he was 16 years old.
Started in 1945, and at that time it was a Blairgowrie Advertiser. And I've worked here all the time, with a break of 2 years for national service in 1950 to 53. The apprenticeship, when I started, the length of the apprenticeship was 7 years. And my first job was an apprentice solicitor to sweep the floor. And then we went on to handset out of the cases. Well, you had a setting stick, and you set the setting stick to the measure you wanted. And then you stood in front of the case. The lower case was on a bench and the cap case was facing you separately. After you had finished, we spaced it out, took it over to the stone, and we locked it up into what we called a chase. And from then on, it was taken to a printing machine, Heidel, Erle, whatever.
Kenneth was an intertype operator, starting in Blairgowrie in 1960. Ken started here as a printer's devil, a title given to the youngest apprentice.
I was here for 6 years, and then I left here and I went for 2 years. I worked in the Perthshire Advertiser in Perth. Then I emigrated to Canada in 1968. So I was in the printing trade in Canada for 15 years. First job in here would be probably making the tea. Making the tea on a daily basis was my first job. And just any general job, learning typesetting, I suppose, initially would be the first requirement as an actual compositor, using a setting stick and using the cases. Well, eventually then we would move from that onto the mechanical typesetting. I became an intertype operator.
Errol Williams was a printer here for over 50 years. Errol is renowned for his humour.
Swept the flare, light the fire, dog's body. Worked in the Arab first, printing labels for Rollo, putting on bags and that, you know. Tag labels, you know, thousands of the damn thing. Sometimes you were in luck, you got 4 at a time on one sheet, you know, but other times it was da-da-da, da-da-da. And then I worked on the Blairgowrie, that monster over there. But that was only on Thursdays and Fridays back in olden days, pushing back to Wednesdays and Thursdays. And belt used to break now and again just to keep you happy.
Ron Stephen is a letterpress printer. Ron's expertise in fixing machines has proved invaluable here.
I started in printing trade in 1960 as an apprentice printer. The apprenticeship was 6 years. Part of the apprenticeship that you started on a basic simple machine like the Arab here, which was actually a machine that was worked by a treadle rather than an electric motor, which was slower. And the first thing you did was you learned what we call hand feed. Typesetting for the newspaper was done on the intertype machine, so it wasn't made up of individual letters from the type founders, the cases there. It was made on the linotype machine, so it was composed of slugs. So it was basically a much more automated, quicker system. I started at £2.16 and 9 a week, and Kenny was quite miffed because he only got £2 and 8 shillings a week. So that was what we got. £2.16 and 9, you never forget it, your first wage. So my mother got the £2, I got the 16 and 9.
David Phillips joined in 1953, serving as a compositor and reporter for over 30 years.
Well, I remember when I started, the first thing we got to do was sweep the floor and then learn the case. And one of the first jobs we did learning the case was in fact setting up posters. And one of the things we had to do when we came here first was to go to night classes in Dundee. And that was 3 nights a week. We had to hurry home, run round the table, look at the sink, wash your face, catch the bus at 6 o'clock, get through to Dundee, do a couple of hours there, get the bus back here about 10:30, 11:15, 3 nights a week. Even before I was here, I was always interested in newspapers, not just the production, mostly the production, but also the writing. And I did various reports on football matches and cricket matches. And from there, I think I got a penny a line for a while. Bigger stories were borough court things, where a magistrate had said after a lengthy trial, a couple of hours, he used the great phrase, "In view of your past record, I find you guilty."
So this team are experts who know and revere every inch of this building. The first task of the apprentice compositor or typesetter was to learn the case. Many sizes of type are stored here. Each letter of the alphabet, numbers and punctuation marks are kept in their own prescribed box. Everything must have its place. Type sizes of about 1/8 of an inch were used to compose the news columns in the Blairgowrie. As many as 8 or 9 compositors, many of them women, would be involved in setting the type by hand. The machines all have their own purpose, their own character. The clattering and chattering parts almost speak to us. Or should that be shout? But in 1922, the proprietors of the Blairgowrie Advertiser made a gigantic leap in technology by purchasing an intertype machine. It allowed mechanical typesetting, doing away with hours of hand setting and dissing. One operator alone could set 20 to 30 columns of news. Previously, it took 1 hour per column to set by hand. And once it was over, the solid lines of type, known as slugs, were brought here for recycling. Near the end of the process, the pages of the Blairgowrie were produced on this machine, the big Wharfdale, the printer standing on this block to ensure all went smoothly. Then the paper was finally and carefully folded here on this 1934 machine. Each page of the run of 4,000 was fed manually, one after the other. The machine was last used in 1978 for the very final edition of the Blairgowrie. The paper has kept its readers informed for more than a century, all keen to get their news, most blissfully unaware of the intricate machinery, skill and craft required to bring the latest headlines to their doorstep. In 1978, the paper was acquired by Scottish and Universal newspapers, and printing transferred to Perth. Commercial printing continued under the name of Blairgowrie Printers, in the ownership of Mr. John Henderson. In 1980, Hamilton and his wife Catherine bought the print shop and continued commercial printing until they retired in 2005.
Oh, absolutely happy days, there's no doubt about it. Lots of memories, and the industry employed a lot of people, and so therefore you were working with colleagues hand to hand, a lot of ladies, a lot of girls, and also a lot of relationships were forged in the trade, where you had girl and boy meeting each other, and a lot of them ending up being married, just through their work.
Sometimes if I laid the newspaper chases against that wall there, I caved in. Pie-eyed, shall we say. Boss, not very chuffed. Still, what can you do, eh? Didn't need the modern technology.
Well, for me, sitting down to intertype again, I spent quite a number of years of doing that before we moved on to offset printing. So it was kind of a throwback in time for me. Very enjoyable.
One of the comps was dancing on the stone, and the proprietor's wife was upstairs watching him. And we noticed her, but we didn't let him know. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. And then for a while, there was always a cry going out on a Friday evening, let's all go and have a yabba dabba doo time from the Flintstones. Yeah, lots of fun.
I find it a very interesting life, and it's one I could safely say I have my life to live again. I would do the same again.